Something just doesn't quite look right. The history of civilization is unfortunately tied to the history of war. And today here at Fort Loudoun, we're going to take a look at that microcosm and that connection through the centuries. From 5th century BC Greek warriors to late 20th century troops, reenactors spanning those 2,500 years are spending the weekend here at the annual Across the Centuries event, making for some interesting paradoxes.
They become so sophisticated that like even this is all covered in plate. This is replaced with articulating plate. And they almost have the same range of movement with articulated plate technology. So this is an earlier one. It was very common not to have this covered, especially if I'm on a horse. I don't need the back of my leg covered because I have a horse here. And it's more comfortable to not have a plate between me and the horse.
And then what you see here is some, this cross movement was bored when he was painted Saint Sebastian, who was the patron saint of archers. He was executed by being shot by arrows. Actually lived.
Some interesting looking broadheads.
Interesting looking broadheads, right?
Not fun looking broadheads.
So I'm not sure if you mentioned it over here, if you come by, but we're the company of the Black Spear. We're a early 15th century living history group, so we predominantly portray 1400 to 1420. In that time period, you have a 100-year war going on. You have the Battle of Agincourt, the Agincourt campaign. That's kind of like the bread and butter of what we portray here in this time period. But we focus on the common soldier, not necessarily the knight or the nobleman. Why? It's cheaper to get into, it's easier to get into, but it's also important because everyone knows the knight, everyone knows the fully armored man at arms from movies, from books, from manuscripts. But what's not shown is for every roughly 3-to-1 ratio for every one of those guys, there would have been 3 guys supporting him,
doing the work,
doing the work. But we were not the wealthy ones, so we weren't the ones that were getting painted in manuscripts and illuminations, all that kind of stuff. Right. You're moving away from a feudal system, you're moving into more of like a renewal system. So instead of the peasant levy, peasants getting plucked from the fields and out there, sent off to war, it was contracted, paid professional soldiers at the time period. So in this case, we represent the retinue of a minor knight. That minor knight might be a knight, but probably not super wealthy, wealthy enough. So he was under contract to provide X amount of military service to whoever he kind of reports to, King of England, a higher lord, whatever it may be. So they say, okay, you have a duty to provide 2 months of military service each year. In addition to that, he had to provide X amount of soldiers to go with him. So he would have either other armed men like that, or in our case, archers. So,
of course, I had to try my hand with a bow.
See if you can't pull that back.
Oh yeah, you're good.
Not real stable with
Hey,
it,
look
but
at that bullseye! Great job.
no one's that stable with them.
Gonna have it aim for that little
Excellent. Above or below the knock point?
Right about above or right about below. Either way, I feel like it's more or less perfect.
Well, because these are field pens, so they're meant to go into the other one shoots the foam. Great job.
There you go.
2 of them hit, yep.
You're doing better than most. Hit it first try.
Mom,
What are you doing?
I was looking for more.
two.
Oh, wait, right.
I hit 2 arrows. That was 3.
There's a bit of twang on that release.
Oh yeah. Ooh. Last arrow. See if you can hit that bullseye. Last fella hit a rope. I bet you can hit it.
Yeah, I saw that.
Go back to yours, Ken. Excellent. One more time.
Oh, perfect. You're consistent. That's good.
I hit the bail.
And you hit it consistently too.
Right? Yeah. Look at that bullseye.
There's plenty of people
Great
that try
job.
to think they can't even get a single arrow in the next bale.
The best way to support the channel is to like, subscribe, and comment on the videos. And if you want to throw a couple bucks toward my caffeine habit or become a supporting member, there's a link in the description to our Buy Me a Coffee page.
Cut it a little thinner, I think. That's the problem.
He's got clansmen that he's recruiting to join him, and different clans are aligned with him. But he is augmenting his regular forces, the guys that are going to fight the pike and shot battles. He's augmenting them with what today we would term irregular soldiers. And it's the Galloglass and especially the Kern. Because these guys are great skirmishers. They're great. They'll go out and harass the English, force them to deploy into battle before they're ready, and then his formations can come out and hit them.
Now the professional soldiers would have been armored with a padded coat and a coat of mail and a helm. And these are all different various European styles that they could import. But one of the favorite weapons of the professional soldiers was the two-handed Galloglass axe. A big 6-foot plus Galloglass swinging one of these was a sight to behold. He didn't want to get close to that because he could easily lop a head off with that. And then he would be supported by the common Kern. You see these fellows dressed in yellow with baggy sleeves. And they were not professional soldiers. They would just be called up by their chieftain when needed. And they would be armed with bows and arrows, throwing weapons like this. This is a javelin. And then there's also the dart. And the dart is fletched like an arrow. It has a steel arrowhead on it, and then it has a leather thong. The reason for that is you could loop their finger in that, and it actually extends the length of the arm, making it more accurate and would fly much faster.
He doesn't have enough men to kick them out himself. So he's talking to the King of Spain to get help from them. And the Spanish, fast forward to the American Revolution. We do the same with the French. So the Spanish are saying, yeah, we'll come help you. Prove to us you can win in the field and that we're not just wasting resources. And the French do the same to the Americans. They say, great, we'd love to help you against our traditional enemies, the British, but we're not going to waste our resources if you can't win in battles. Weapons like this are used somewhere in the world for about 400 years as a frontline weapon. So the technology, doesn't get any simpler. You're putting fire into gunpowder.
The demonstrations and presentations throughout the day by the living historians is probably the highlight of the day. Sherman tank driving past Union soldiers from the Civil War era is something you really don't expect to see.
infantry machine gun. It's 6.5 millimeter round, and the magazine is attached to the gun.
Would have been used a lot during the 18th and the 19th centuries. So first we are going to see a ship's piece, then we're going to see a field artillery piece, then we're going to go into a swivel gun, and then finally ending with a mortar. One thing you will notice as we go through all of these processes is that the processes that they use to load and fire these artillery pieces are pretty much exactly the same. So you're going to notice a lot of similarities in this. And paramount to everything, of course, now as we're doing this in a way that we're able to interpret it to you, but even at the time, safety is paramount. So what you're seeing first is ensuring that there is in fact nothing in that cannon down the barrel. They are searching it, and the next thing they do is they take that swab and they pull it down with water just in case there is anything down in there. They will extinguish all of it. But also the man, you'll notice, is placing his finger over top of the touch hole of the barrel at all points in time, because otherwise that swab, when you're pulling it out, is going to do exactly what a plunger does and create a vacuum, which would end up putting air over top of any hot coals, causing a not so fun day for anyone involved. After they've done that, they're forwarding the charge up into the cannon itself and putting it in the barrel and ramming it home down in the base. But you'll notice that it is a canister that they are placing in there. It is a solid charge. So in order to fire it, the bombardier is then taking a pan.
Advancement stock, give fire! Search the beast!
All right, so that was a 4-pound ship's cannon. So imagine being on a man of war while, 10, 12, 15, 20, even 40 of those are firing off all around you in succession. And you're doing this as quickly as you possibly can. You would have specialization between things as your normal, your more cannon pieces, and then mortars. And a lot of that has to do simply with the math that's involved with it. So more than likely, if you're a gunner, that is on a field piece or on a ship piece, you're not going to have the specialization of someone who's using a mortar because the fire is more direct on a field artillery piece or on a ship's piece. The Navy has its own training. They have their own way of doing things because they also have to account for the pitch of the yaw of the boat. But your standard pieces, there are specialties that go in there because the math is different. And that's where it all comes down from. That's why gunners, that's why artillerists make more money. That's why they're able to do better things, because they have to have that math and that education. A lot of people think of the military of the 17th and the 18th centuries and 19th centuries just kind of being, the grunts of society, the people that are the dregs. But in fact, education is incredibly important. The British military system has about a literacy rate of about 75% of those who are in part of the military. It doesn't always start that way, but they have schools that are inside of the unit. So even your rank and file enlisted men, your private soldiers, if they don't know how to read, they don't know how to write, they're encouraged to do so.
Get fire!
The Royal Artillery Schools, they actually have set up curriculum and schools so that way they can learn the mathematics in order to do this. They're able to figure out the numbers so that way they're able to be effective. Mortar is a little bit different because it is not, a straight angle that's going to your target. You're actually lobbing up. So mortars are being used in siege situations to go over top of the walls of forts. They can either launch round ball or they can launch, more incendiary devices. Today we're going to be launching, I think, some oranges.
Load the round.
Yeah, we're launching oranges today. It sounds really, really silly if you don't put anything in there. It just kind of goes. But you'll notice the exact same procedure they're going through. They're loading the charge. They're searching the pieces, ensuring all the safety. They're putting the powder in there.
Have a care. Advancement stock. Give fire.
So if you have a glass of whiskey, some ice, and simple syrup, and you run really, really quickly that way, you can have the strangest old-fashioned in the world.
It's not just 20th century American troops we see, but German, Russian, French, and others.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Bill Buser. I represent the 137th Gebirgs in Germany, and we were mountain troops pretty much designed to work in the Arctic and area like this. Today we're representing being the troops the German troops in Italy after Italy surrendered. One of the things they had were motorcycles, and this is a replica of a BMW from about 1940 or so. It's really a modern bike. It's a Ural. It's been modified to look like it. The gas tank is a period gas tank. Has a sidecar. It basically is the same as you would have seen in 1944, with a couple differences: a starter motor and electronic ignition. And how much they have put into the medical field.
For that one too, because I love stuff like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But this is a 1966 M151A1, so it is of the era. There's only one gun truck remaining, that's the Eva Destruction, the name on the side, and that's at Fort Eustis Transportation Museum down in Virginia. And vehicle commander.
Yeah, I was like, come on. You didn't bring home a sugar bar though?
All you guys are from Belarus?
She's from Ukraine.
Every once in a while there would be some external threat, like the Persian Empire coming in a couple times at the beginning of the 5th century. And they were defeated by the Greeks at famous battles like Thermopylae and Marathon and Plataea. They were defeated by alliances of city-states that would normally be at each other's throats and would quickly go back to being at each other's throats after the Persians were defeated. The dance that we're about to demonstrate is what they called a Pyrrhic dance. And this is our interpretation of a tradition which we have quite a lot of information about, but of course something like a dance is always going to be speculative. We don't know exactly what the music was, we don't know exactly what the moves were, we don't remotely know what the moves were. We have some descriptions of them, but what we know is that these were choreographed dances of martial prowess. The original trophy. If anyone would like to find out more, we're here for another hour until the event closes. So please come by. We've got a display that's about all of ancient Greece, not just the military dimension. We talk about diet, religion, culture in general.
Inside the fort itself, as on most occasions, 18th century British and colonial forces seem better suited to their environment.
They would recruit. They might give somebody a mug of beer. When you drank down a mug of beer or ale, at the bottom there was shilling. You take the king shilling, now you're in the service of the king.
Virginia, but we would also be as far as Cumberland, Maryland, and based out east, patrolling the whole area, interacting with the Pennsylvanians that had on various campaigns. And they had trouble recruiting people into Winchester in the area, had a lot of trouble. So most of them would have been the bars of Alexandria and so forth, which would have been the seaport in the city. Right. There was no DC at the time. So yeah, they recruited taverns. And I hate to say nowadays, you know, my two brothers were both in the Army. They didn't go in at the highlight of their lives. They went in at the Low Point didn't really have a job, young, nothing to lose, and that's how they would recruit them. They would recruit them down there too. Excuse me, we have wild banshees here.
Just put him here.
Even here, though, the contradictions in time continue.
He traps them all in.
Or the entire tank, barrels full of nails. And they all have to be, we need whatever that is, 6,000 3-inch nails and 6,000 2-inch.
Up until these recipes.
They also had, especially for nails, other little comments.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this look back at history through the centuries. We've seen everything from ancient Greeks to 20th century armor. All in all, a really great weekend here at Fort Loudoun. If you get the chance next year, put this one on the calendar, folks. And until the next one, as always, have a great week.